Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you part 2 of the Slaan Star Master video series. This time we are going to be working on his palanquin, his big floaty chair, and this will finish off this unbelievable model. There hasn't been many models on my channel that I've had to do as split videos, but this one is quite complicated. I don't mean complicated as in difficult, I just mean complicated as intricate. Lots of different parts, lots of colors, lots of parts interacting with each other. So it's a kind of a slower process. Don't worry, it's not a more complicated. Anyone can still do what I do here in this video. It's just going to take you a little bit more time. So before we get into this video, let me just thank all of my active patrons. Without you guys, I would not be able to keep the lights on and the cameras rolling. So huge thank you to all of you guys. If you're interested in becoming a participant, there's links to it below in the description. Benefits include a private Discord server where you can get involved with me, my hobby, and your hobby, and get chatting on that on a daily basis, and an extra video every single week for you guys. So you get an extra 52 videos a year just for being a member of the Patreon. All right, guys, let's get into the video. Okay, guys, in part 1 of this series, I got the Slaan himself painted up, and here he is in all his orange glory, looking like the Aztec god that he is. And today's video, we're going to be tackling his palanquin, his floating chair. The reason these guys sit on chairs is they do not wish to touch the ground that chaos has tainted, so they try and stay as pure as possible by floating around on little hover chairs. The model was sprayed black and then grey cere as per usual, and then we're going to start with Basilicanum Grey contrast. And we're going to apply this to all of the stonework on this guy. The stonework on this guy gave me the most kind of trouble or trepidation, or I don't know, I was slightly confused by it, because I wasn't really sure which direction I wanted to go with as I was basically painting through the processes. So I started with Basilicanum Grey as a solid coat. Now the difficult thing is, I wish they designed it so basically all of the vines would kind of snap on afterwards, but they are molded onto much of the stonework as it is, which means that it is quite difficult to get in at all of the grey parts with all of the vines in the way, especially across the palanquin's back. But we shall make it work. And as you can see, it is quite difficult to get in behind all of those parts. From here, we're just going to give it all a quick shade of Seraphim Sepia. I'm trying to add that aged look to it. Kind of like dirt and grime will have settled into all the cracks and recesses of this piece over the millennia that he has been floating around on it. Unless, you know, little skink tenants go around with toothbrushes and scrub all the moss and dirt out of all the gaps, which they may very well do, I don't know. But once again, another quick step just to start off the process of getting this stone looking nice. Being careful to not let any of the Seraphim Sepia pool anywhere that you don't want it. Okay, from here we're going to use the Artist Opus brushes to do a little bit of dry brushing. So I'm going to start with Dawnstone to start with. If you don't know the Artist Opus series, these dry brushes, they're pretty good. I'm a huge fan. I've used them on a bunch of different projects now. So we're going to go through and dry brush all of the stonework, just add a little bit more kind of texture to it. Brighten up some of the flatter areas, but very much leaving all of that dark sepia grey in all of the recesses. Okay, and after the first layer, we are going to jump over to a brighter grey. After that, we're going to go into Administratum Grey and basically do the same step, but we're going to go a lot lighter, just trying to catch the very sharp edges of the model. Just acting as almost like an edge highlight for all of those parts. You can even see how much slower I'm being with the movements in the brush, more deliberate I'm being with picking the edges and the sharp parts, steps for instance going up onto his chair. And with that we have the grey like this. Now I actually do torment that grey a little bit more later on. You can tell me later if I made a mistake by pushing it even further, but I guess we'll make that decision together. So Grunter Fur was then brought in to base coat all of the vines, and he does have quite a lot of vines on the model. It is to create the illusion that it is floating even though it is vines holding him off the ground. I think it does a pretty good job, to be honest. And I quite enjoy the overgrown look of the chair. Lizardmen have been my favorite Warhammer army for many years. So finally getting my hands on a new plastic Slaan after so many years is is kind of incredible. I can't believe the day has finally come. Gut Ripper Flesh is the green I went for to start base coating all of the leaves. It is a really nice kind of pallid green. It takes a shade really nice, and then when you highlight it up later on, it does give that kind of jungle forest look that I was after. There is quite a lot of leaves on the model. Don't forget all the ones on the base as well if you are following along. It is actually kind of a slightly tedious process. It's like playing Where's Wallow with foliage and trying to find them, and I think I did end up missing a leaf or two and had to go back and repaint them in later on. But as you can see, even all of the vines are sprouting leaves. And don't forget all of the ones on the bases as well. Garaghak Sewer was brought in to base coat the tree trunk on the base. You can actually see here how I haven't painted the foliage on the base yet, and I jumped over to the tree trunk. That's obviously when I realized that I'd forgotten to do all the leaves on the base, and then went back and did them. So through the power of magical editing, you will see the leaves become painted out of nowhere at some point in the near future. Oh look, they're green now. Corandrus green was what I used to base coat in all of the moss. I wanted the moss to be much more bright and vibrant, a lot richer in color. So I went for Corandrus green. And once again, the same with the leaves. It is absolutely everywhere. It is tucked into nooks and crannies. So make sure you do pay attention and have a proper look around the model to make sure you find all of the moss. Like I said, I indeed forgot some of the moss on the very top of the chair itself, and had to go back and reapply the Corandrus green later on. Retributor Armour gold, used to highlight all of the gold parts. So this is very much, once again, it's your choice how much gold you want to add or not add to the miniature. Like I added some of the motifs on the front of the chair in gold, whereas when I saw them online or on the pictures on the website, they didn't have that gold, but I decided to add just a little bit more flash with it. I did actually forget to film the base coating of all of the horns and the tusks. That's just a cut of Xandri dust, so you may see jumping from frame to frame that those horns suddenly get base coated in. I had intended on filming that, but unfortunately I forgot to record, which happens. I do apologize. There's certain other details on the miniature that I'm not going to go into crazy detail or show you at all how to paint, like the frogs and lizards and stuff that are all over the base. I mean, these things are completely up to you how you want to paint them, what colors you want to use, whatever suits you. You know, I've done yellow, blue, and pink or whatever. It's nothing crazy. Easy enough to do. You can see the gold in the constellations on the back of his chair and stuff, and all the gold motifs I talked about at the start. Here's a quick example of what the model might look like with him, the actual Slaan himself, sat in the chair. I kept adding him in to see kind of how I was getting on with the painting, and I was getting quite happy at this point. But now is the time where I may have, I don't know whether I did a good job or a bad job with the grey, because I applied Seraphim Sepia. I was thinking I was only going to apply to all the parts that weren't stone, so all of the vines and leaves and moss and stuff, to add a little bit of growth to that. But then I just decided to power on and cover the entire miniature with Seraphim Sepia, once again adding in that kind of rich brown colour into the recesses. It made shading very, very quick. It didn't matter where I was going. And I was quite liking the kind of aged look I was getting across the entire miniature. So I don't per se think that this step was the mistake. When it dried, I then decided to go back and relayer the grey very lightly. Although I quite like this look. Where it is right now, I quite like the look of the grey. It does look like aged stone. I was quite happy with it. So maybe if you're getting to this stage, if you really like the stone, maybe don't do this step here, which is I went back to Dawnstone and added a quick layer job to the stone. I didn't focus too much underneath it or any of the recessed areas. It was just on the kind of flatter areas. Just trying to brighten the chair up again. This did take a little bit of time. And you will see now when it goes to the next transition where all the grey is done. And I'd like to know your thoughts on it. So, like, I'm not a perfect painter at all. The channel's called Mediocre Hobbies for a reason. So I'd love to know your opinion as if this was a good step or a bad step. So let me know in the comments below if you think I should have left the grey alone or whether you think the layering added something to it. I then went over to Ironbreaker and highlighted up all of the gold parts of the model. Just my usual kind of touch highlight. All the sharp edges. And a few kind of scratches on some of the flatter areas. It's a really quick and effective way to layer up all the gold. From here, we're going to use Catachan Flesh, and we're going to use that to layer up the bark on the fallen down tree trunk. Like I said, it's another very quick stage. It's not exactly one of the focal parts of the model. If you've got a celestial god in the shape of a frog floating on a hover chair through the jungle, I don't think you're going to be stopping to have a look at a fallen down log. But you still have to put in a little bit of effort. As you can see, I'm just following the direction the tree has grown. Made sure not to go into any of the recesses. Mournfang Brown was then brought in and used to highlight up all of the vines going across the Palanquin itself. Try to get rid of any blotchy parts where the shade might have settled wrong. And just add a little bit of colour and life back into those parts. Once again, there's quite a lot of vines on the model. Normally a video takes me kind of a day to film the painting side of things, or 2 days if it's a particularly difficult model. The Slaan and Share took 4 days of painting, so take from that as you will. Moot Green was then brought in to highlight all of the leaves, and I did a few scratchy highlights on all of the moss as well, bringing those kind of green tones together and highlighting all of the foliage. It was a lot of fun to do, especially on anything that actually has like proper stem and leaves. You can go in and highlight them quite nicely, and it really does make the whole thing just kind of pop and scream at you, which is really what you want to see when it comes to this miniature. Morghast Bone was then brought in, and I used this to highlight all of those tusks. I didn't forget to layer, like I forgot to base coat. And as you can see, I'm going quite slowly, being careful with my brush and following the natural lines of the tusk as it goes up. This is one of the kind of final steps that I went to for painting up the Palanquin for the Slaan. Like I said, of course, off camera I painted up and highlighted the frog and the little orange lizard and the flying snake and stuff like that, which left me with this as my final result, my finished Slaan Mage Priest Star Master Palanquin. Really pleased with the result. I super am. It's one of the pieces that I'm the most proud of that I've ever painted up, and especially when I added in the Slaan at the end. I'm absolutely in love with this piece. Cannot wait to paint up the rest of the Lizardman box set. I've already got the source built, so that will be the next video in this series. Got a couple of stills here just to show you guys what the final product looks like, with some proper photographs. Him casting some crazy spells to, I don't know, bring down the heavens or banish the ghosts. And then a final one in white just to set it off. Okay guys, and there we have it. One finished Slaan Star Master, all finished up and ready for the tabletop. This is one of the most proud models that I've ever done. I'm really pleased with how it turned out, and I hope you guys liked the journey that it took to get there. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. Make sure if you enjoyed it, you give it a like. Ask me any questions you have in the comments below, and I will get back to each and every one of you guys. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please also do that. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.